Hi, my name's Kasha Howard, and I am the Education and Engagement Officer for the Landmark Trust. The Landmark Trust is a charity which exists to save and restore historic buildings that are kind of very needy, buildings that no one else wants, buildings that perhaps have been forgotten about for many years. We've got some fantastic buildings in our care. And I say care because these are all buildings that have got hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of history, and hopefully hundreds and hundreds of more years of enjoyment to come. When we restore our buildings, we then let them out for holidays. But increasingly, thanks to the Heritage Lottery Fund, we're able to open up many of our buildings to the public, for the public to come along and enjoy them. The Landmark Trust was started in 1965 by a chap called Sir John Smith. He was absolutely appalled by the condition of many of our historic buildings and was determined to do something and to find a way to be able to rescue and restore them. And so that's how the Landmark Trust started. Morpeth Castle is just one of our amazing buildings. We've got nearly 200 up and down the country, and some also in Europe. And luckily we're able to open up Morpeth every year for the public to enjoy, and that's why we're here today. We've also got some local storytellers on board with us today, and some local musicians who'll be entertaining the public with stories and music, and also capturing some of the social history, some of the myths and legends that surround this fantastic building. The Landmark Trust is brilliant because it's very affordable for everybody. Lots of our buildings sleep quite large groups of people. So it means you can gather together families or groups of friends, or they're brilliant places for celebrations. Amazingly, we get quite a lot of local people coming to stay in their local buildings. Perhaps they're buildings that they've seen from a distance or they've heard about for many years, and when they find out there's an opportunity to come and stay in them, they really want to come and stay. And then we have people from, the other side of the country who want to come and discover a new place and explore it and stay in a building that is a really, really important part of the tradition of that county or of that area. And they are buildings that are brilliant just to be able to stay in with family and friends and relax and enjoy each other's company. It's not very expensive. I think if you divide up the number of nights between the number of people that you can fit into the building, then it works out as being a really, really affordable holiday. Obviously the summer months are slightly more expensive than the winter months, but yeah, it's a brilliant place just to come and enjoy.
And are places like Morpeth Castle open year-round?
They are, absolutely, weather permitting. I think the housekeepers would probably tell you that there are times where the snow is several inches on the ground, and it can be a bit tricky. But yeah, I mean, what an amazing place to be snowed in if that does happen to you. I mean, you could, you just have a whale of a time.
And how important do you think it is that people are making a contribution through their holidays to saving these sorts of buildings?
It is really, really important, because the kinds of buildings that we are asked to get involved in the case of Morpeth Castle, it was by the local authority. They really are the buildings that are very, very tricky to place in any other kind of context. They're perhaps not big enough to become tourist attractions in their own right. Perhaps access is a bit too difficult, or to create a parking area around the building would just completely ruin its nature. So we tend to capture those buildings that are quite tricky to do anything else with, or perhaps buildings that are just so derelict and so beyond normal care that for anyone else to be able to raise the funds to be able to save them would be almost impossible.
We have a lot of variety of people. The Americans love it, and we have a lot of people from down south. A bit of an escape, no television, no phones really, so they like to just escape really from the hustle bustle of life, and they find it very relaxing. They do the coast routes and the walks, and it's a relaxing place for them, I suppose. And
do many of them expect to see ghosts?
Well, we do have in the information book, the book that they can write in before they leave, we do have a few people where they'll say the latches on the doors rattled and things like that, but I mean, I've worked here for quite a lot of years and I haven't seen anything. So I'm not 100% sure there is anything here, to be quite honest.
I came here in '68 when the place was advertised by the council as a very cheap rented, large estate in terms of gardens and so forth, and an interesting house. But it was in very poor order. I followed, in effect, Paul and Mrs. Shrubsole, who we had been for many years as council tenants, and we rebuilt this wall and modernised the whole place with heating, new bathrooms, upper floor rebuilt, and the roof was partly rebuilt even. Did an awful lot of work here, and eventually built a swimming pool. And we also dug the well, which has been capped off again, in the garden, where we had, my gardener went down 40 feet. We didn't get the bottom yet, but we found an awful lot of boar's tusks and oyster shells and antlers and so forth down the bottom of it, plus a lot of clinker. But nothing else of value, unfortunately. No. And they've demolished the hall now. The hall was beyond the front door there, went to the kitchen and another cloakroom and bathroom beyond the hall, next to the kitchen. So it's a much larger house than it is now, much larger indeed.
So you moved into it as a family home?
Yes, that was the object. I have 4 children and living in town, a nice house in town, but didn't have the space this place had, so we came here instead. And I took on initially 25-year lease, which became 40 years, and I lived here for most of the 40-year lease period until the kids grew up, essentially. Bit big for 2 people.
What was it like living in a castle?
Fantastic. It was well heated, you see, which it hadn't been before. Mrs. Shrubsole lived here with 2 coats on most of the day, even in the summer.
So you had to spend a lot of money and time in bringing it back?
In the 1960s, I spent nearly £100,000 on this house.
Which was a lot of money then?
It was a bit of money, and it still is. Downside more then. But over the years, it was good payback because it was a great place to bring the kids up. Completely walled garden, completely safe, and with obviously our own swimming pool as well. Self-contained family, really. Tremendous.
And when did you move out?
My building company was knocked out by the last socialist government. They stopped all local authority building. We had 6 schools on at the time. We obviously couldn't stand the cash flow shortage, so I ran out of money essentially. So I moved back downtown and restarted life again and remade my career.
Coming back today, what's that been like for you after all this time?
Today, it's a pity to see it so small and reduced in what it was, because it was a very gracious house once, and they pulled down the hall and kitchen and so forth because I believe they were not contemporary with the building, which indeed they aren't. They were built by Earl Lonsdale's relations, but they kept the Victorian stables, and which is a bit of a misnomer in my mind. We should have put the whole lot down, go back to the original building, which was just a gatehouse with a curtain wall. We never found any signs of the actual keep, which is supposed to be in the middle here. We did a lot of digging for it, and especially around where the well is, because that's where the keep should have been, around the well at least, and no sign of that at all.
Yeah, you have a lot of happy memories of the years that you lived here.
Totally, had a grand life.
Yeah.
No regrets whatsoever.
No.
That's the children. They say the same thing.
Yeah, they spent their childhood here then, did they? Yeah.
Virtually totally, yes. My youngest daughter, who was here today, was, I think she was 4, or thereabouts at the time, maybe 5. And the eldest was 10 or 11.
Yeah.
And so they grew up in the most formative years, the important years, we grew up here. Went to school in town, of course.
And although it's changed very much from the family house that it was, it must be nice to see that it's still preserved and kept well.
Yes, it's different. All these walls weren't painted when I was here, and I think a little more original, possibly.
Yeah.